I will tell you too, in the spring, in the past years, we've had some bluefin tunas. You know, the giant tunas, but not really big ones, but juvenile tunas from 40 to 150 pounders. Sometimes they're going to be on these AR wrecks. And now I'm going to talk to you about the Atlantic bonitas, which are fish that are like a mix between a tuna and a mackerel. They have teeth like a mackerel, but they have a body like a tuna fish. In the old days, they used to call them bonita mackerels. But they're fighting, very fighting sporting fish. They come in every year, middle of April, like clockwork. Some years they show up better than others. But the last 2 years, we've had a pretty good showing of them. And they're pretty easy to target. You go out to these AR, artificial reefs, that the state puts for us. It's, 3, 5, and here out of Carolina Beach, there's one right off the Marriott. But these ARs, where they were here last year off CB, and they were at AR 370 off Wrightsville in real good numbers. There's ways to approach the bonitas. There are going to be times when the bonitas are up on the surface crashing and raising cane, and when they're doing that, you can throw anything in the world in there, and they're going to eat it and peel out of there. But there's a couple things I like to throw at them. And I like to throw these same kind of casting jigs, like the ones that they sell in these gotcha packs. And these are pretty handy. They got these new gotcha packs that come with the 2 killer gotchas, and they come with a casting jig. But these casting jigs work really good for the bonitas, and I'd say in a little bigger size than you would use later for the Spanish. Like this heavier size would probably work good for the bonitas. For one, if they seem to want to come up and down fast. So if you're in an AR area and they're not busting, and you happen to be trolling your gear around, and which you control these deep diving plugs tied onto the same 8-pound outfit, you control those plugs and just go around in circles around these ARs. Pull the numbers off a chart, put them into your machine, drive over all of it. These fish are, if they're near those ARs and you drive across them with a deep diving lure like that, they're going to just slam it. And when they fight, these fish fight real, real hard. They can reach speeds of probably 30 miles an hour and just dump line off a spinning reel. They are great to eat, despite people say they're not good to eat. The Atlantic bonitas, fine eating. Now the false albacore, which is closely related, is not fine eating. And the way you can tell the difference is the Atlantic bonita has teeth like a mackerel. If he's got teeth like a mackerel, he's sushi. And they are delicious. You can use them for rolling sushi. You can use them in any kind of way you would sear tuna and eat it rare. Or any kind of way you would eat tuna. You can make tuna salad on them if you don't like rare tuna fish. They make a smoking tuna fish salad. And then they'll always be in the spring, like April 15th through mid-May. And you can just go out early every morning in that time period and just, if the weather's right, get out to these ARs early. Now, they like to bite early as sunrise comes up, and a little later in the morning they slow up after 10 or so in the morning. So the bite is early. But when you show up to go to the Atlantic bonita fishing, you will not, the fight is unbelievable. So they're sporting fish, and they're a lot of fun. But they like deep diving plugs, so I would have a rod. I would show up, if I had 2 people, I'd have both persons would have a deep jig, that if the fish aren't up on the surface busting and we're not, we've already trolled, we haven't got a few bites, a lot of times you get near the structure on these these artificial reefs in a 40-foot of water, and you can drop that 3/4 ounce or ½ ounce jig to the bottom on one of these light rigs and just drift. And watch your sounder. If you're marking fish in the middle of the column, rip it up a little higher. If you're seeing nothing, just drift and try different approaches. But drifting by these big ARs with a spoon like this that you can fish vertically up and down in the column, all the way to drop it all the way to the bottom, crank it up a time or 2. And if you see a huge wreck getting ready to go over as you're drifting towards the machine, you might want to lift up, and then when you get past it, drop it right back. And drifting and jigging, these kind of spoons will catch the Atlantic bonitas as well as this. And they also like to take flies. If you're a fly fisherman, that's a great fish to catch on a fly rod. Because by the time these bonitas have got in, the baits have gotten a little smaller, and there's a lot of littler glass minnows, and they seem to like smaller glass minnows better, and they can also be a teeny bit finicky. And sometimes they want something a little smaller. But so if you have a variety of casting jigs, like something small like this, the first one you catch and lay on the floor of your boat, he's going to be shaking his head and spitting up minnows everywhere. So you can pick them up and say, all right, well, he's eating stuff that's this size. Try to compare it, but it's either going to be a little bigger or a little smaller. And they'll take, I've thrown poppers and top water plugs and everything else at them, but it seems to be that these heavier casting jigs that you can also drift and fish these wrecks, but if they come up 50, 75 feet away, you can also really reach out and touch them with a heavier jig that's about a ½ ounce to an ounce, because you can throw it a long ways, and as long as it gets where they're busting and you crank, he's going to take off with it. So that would be another thing. But at the same time, when the Atlantic bonitas are here, you may see your first Spanish mackerel start blending in with the bonitas a little, into May. You may see false albacore and bonitas together in the same areas, busting on the surface and working with birds, but they're usually going to be near these artificial reefs. And I have seen bluefin tunas just pop up and start busting everywhere, and you not have anything other than a trout size rod, and you got 50 to 75 pound bluefins jumping around in these wrecks, and it happens. So if you do have something larger on hand, when those bluefins start coming up and busting, I caught one in my boat before, but I've seen them on several occasions, and it was only because I had a big heavy rod early like that looking for the covey, and they came up jumping. I threw something in there and got one hooked up. And so they are around sometimes in the spring, and they will, so keep that heavy cobia rod early, and handy a little bit early maybe too.